Welcome back. Well, I hope you enjoyed your last session on formulas because we're going to be talking about some more formulas.
Yes, you might enjoy this one even more. This is where we really start getting into the fun part. Using that reporting tab that we set up a couple of videos ago, we're going to start looking at getting those reporting numbers out of your other spreadsheets and into that tab so that you can access it at any time, especially at reporting time. And all you have to do with that is write a formula that tells Excel which numbers you want to grab and what you want Excel to do with it. So hopefully that won't be too difficult. I don't think it is anyway.
Tell the machine what to do.
That's right. You're smarter than it, I promise. I promise you are.
Okay, that's a promise, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, here we go.
So we want to do more than just basic arithmetic here. So what do we want to do? We want to be able to count the number of kids in each month and each quarter who meet a specific criteria. So we have just some fake data in here for age, gender, and the abuse neglect type. And we have it for January, February, and March. Okay, so let's go back to our reporting spreadsheet over here. And let's say we want to find out how many kids had reports of physical abuse in January of this year. So once again, we're going to start with the equal sign. And this time, the command you're going to use, instead of sum, is you're going to say count if. C-O-N-T-I-F. So what this does, I don't know why that's, there we go. So what COUNTIF does is when you put the range of cells in it, it will look at those cells and check to see how many of them match the criteria that you tell it. And then it will put the total number in this cell. So you're counting if it meets the criteria. So we're going to put it in parentheses again like we did the sum. And you'll see that Excel gives you a little hint here of how you should format the formula. So it's count if range, comma, criteria in parentheses. So we have our parentheses, and we want to put in our range. Now, okay, hold on. We need to go back and look at where we're going to find this information. So we're back out of this. So let's go to the Jan 2018 sheet, okay? And we see that abuse neglect type is in column G. And that contains all of our abuse and neglect types. So we want to tell Excel that we want it to look in sheet Jan 2018, column G, and see how many of these cases, these reports, are indeed physical abuse. Okay, so we go back. Here in our formula bar, we'll say count if, then the parentheses. So our range, this is in a different spreadsheet. And because it's two words, we're going to go ahead and put it in single quotes so that Excel knows that this is all one name. That is something that I forget to do a lot, so if you get an error message, that's one of the first things I recommend checking is if you have your quote marks in place. Okay, so we're saying now we want you to look in the worksheet Jan 2018. We're going to put the exclamation point to let it know that we're going to say some cell names now. And we're going to put the cell range in. So we know it is column G. And it's going to start with G2, because we don't want to count the header row, colon. And now you can make this pretty much any number. I usually go with like G500, but if you think you're going to have more than 500 cases in a month, then you can use a larger number, like 1,000 or 2,000. Just something that is large enough that you're probably not going to ever exceed it. Okay, so we have our range. That's where we're telling Excel to look for this information. But now, what do we want to tell it to look for? How does it know? So we're going to put a comma, just like it says right there in our helpful little hint. And we're going to put in quotation marks. Well, what do we put? We could write out physical abuse, but as you're doing a lot of formulas, that could get a little bit cumbersome. So it could be easier just to write, let's say, FYS, and then an asterisk, so that anything that starts with phys is going to be counted, which will get us all of our physical neglect listings. Okay, so that's a quotation mark. So we close the quotes, and we close the parentheses. So here is our formula. Now, let me see if I can blow this up. I can't do that while I'm in here. That's okay. Okay, so we hit tab, and there we see Excel has found that we have 13 cases in January that were reports of physical abuse. Okay, now I can blow it up a little bit. I'm not sure if you can see that better, but we'll give it a try. Okay, so that is count if January 18, 2018, looking in column G for physical abuse. Okay, so that takes care of January, but now we also want to do this for February. So we're going to do exactly the same thing. Count if, parentheses, a little single quote mark there. Only this time we want it to look in a different sheet. We want it to look in the sheet for February. So we're going to say Feb 2018, then close the single quotation marks, exclamation point, and then we're going to put in the range, and we can use the same range, G2 through G500. Okay, then, so that is our range where we're telling Excel to go and look, and then we tell it, put a comma in here, and then we're going to tell it, once again, to look for anything that starts with the letters phys for physical neglect. Okay, we're going to close quotation marks, close the parentheses, and then we're going to hit tab to lock it in. Always hit tab. Don't hit, if you click to another cell, it could mess it up. Okay, so we see we had 15 cases of physical abuse in February. So we also want this for March. Wait a second, I'm getting a little tired of typing. We're doing a lot of typing, aren't we? So what we could also do is just copy January's formula. Hit copy here. You can also do Control-C or however you like to copy things. And we double click in here, click on the formula bar, and we're going to paste it. And then all we have to do is change the month. January, Jan to Mar for March, to tell it to look down here in the March 2018 spreadsheet. Okay, everything else is the same. And there we go, 12 cases. Okay, and now what is really great is, let's say it's still March, and you're adding more cases down here. So let's say we're going to add another case. Just going to randomly put some information, but we're going to make sure it is physical abuse. So remember we had 12 cases. Now let's look back, and now we have 13 because we've had that case added. So that's really the beauty of these formulas, is once you put them in, any time that you add something into one of the other spreadsheets, it's going to update right here in this in the formula. Okay, so now we want to do the total for the quarter. Now you remember how we did the auto sum earlier, so we're going to do that same thing again. It's this little, again, it's this little symbol that kind of looks like a fancy Greek E, and we're going to click that, and oh, look at that. Excel is already assuming that we want to add together the previous three numbers, which is in fact exactly what we wanted to do, so that's great. And we can see that it's automatically putting in the formula equals sum for addition, and then in parentheses, this is the range of cells that's adding up, F7 through H7, which are our January through March. And so we hit tab, and your total for quarter 2 is going to be 41 cases. So that is going to be fairly easy. And let's say, okay, so we can also cheat a little bit by copying this formula, copy, and let's say we also obviously are going to want to know how many neglect cases there are. So we're going to go to the column for January. Right below it is the row for neglect. So click on the formula bar. We're going to paste that formula. So all of this is still the same. We still want to count if. We want it to look in January. We still are looking at column G. The only difference is that we don't want it to look for physical abuse. We want it to look for neglect. So again, we can just abbreviate it with the first few letters to make it easier. Don't forget the asterisk. And there you go, 14 cases of neglect in January. And we can do the same thing here. Just copy that. Paste it in there. And then change this to neglect. Everything is still the same, so we're looking at February. Still looking at the same column. And 14 cases there too. And then we can do March, you guessed it. Copy that. Oh, and see, this is why I said that when you're working with a formula, you shouldn't use the mouse to click onto a new cell, because Excel will sometimes assume that you're telling it, oh wait, I want you to look in that cell or that cell range for information instead, which is not what you wanted to do. So we basically just destroyed this formula for March. Now, fortunately, there is a very handy function in all Microsoft products, which is the undo button. So we can go right up here to undo. Whew. And our formula is back where it should be. If you want like keyboard shortcuts like I do, you can hold down the Control key and hit Z. Control Z will undo as well. Okay, so we're going to copy this again, but this time go ahead and hit the Enter key to go down one line, and that keeps our previous formula nice and safe. Okay, we're going to paste that in. So we have March, still the right column, column G. Once again, we're just going to change the criteria that Excel is looking for. Tell it to look for neglect cases instead of physical abuse cases. And we had 17 in March. So again, we want the Q2 total. We're going to say auto sum. In this case, it's once again guessing correctly. Now, if it wasn't guessing correctly, then all we would need to do would be to highlight go ahead and highlight those cells on our own. Okay, so F8 through H8. It's going to sum those up, exactly what we want. There we go. There were 45 cases of neglect in the second quarter of this year. Okay, so I hope that you can see how simple this really is. We do have a lovely little cheat sheet or reference guide that is available on the Tribal Information Exchange, probably right where you found this video, or we can include a link here. And that is available. We'll walk you through this at any time, or of course, you'll feel free to rewatch this video, pause, rewind as many times as you want. Okay, so in our next video, we will deal with the bottom part of this sheet. How do we look at two criteria at once? And that's going to make this really powerful, because then you could look at doing a lot of data analysis for your own program management. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us, and remember that we are always available to help. Email us anytime at all. And thank you so much. I hope to see you in the next video. Okay, so now we have all those lovely reporting numbers just waiting for us whenever we want them. How'd you guys find that?
That was really useful. I can see how that would make reporting so much easier.
I put Patty to sleep, so.
I was thinking it sure beats tally marks.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yep, you do it once and then you're done.
And you know, sometimes we think hand counting is easier, but in the long run, we know that this will be accurate, and that's the important part of it, once we've got it down.
That's true. Okay, I think we're all ready to go on to the next learning series, right?
All right, next learning series it is. Thank you.